We're live.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Thanks everyone for being here. I appreciate your time tonight. My name is Sarah Adelman and I am the chair of the Liberty Wells Community Council. We have a pretty good lineup of agenda items for you, so thanks again for coming out to take part in the discussion. We have some good things to tackle today. First, I wanted to just let you know that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. A video recording of last month's meeting is available on our Facebook page as well as on YouTube. There's a link to the YouTube on the printed agendas at the back of the room, and if you get our monthly emails, you'll also get the link in that as well. We do have a sign-up sheet going around today. Feel free to include your name and your email address if you want to receive our emails. We'll only send you a couple emails a month just to let you know about upcoming meetings and events. But even if you don't want to receive our emails, please still at least write your name down. That'll help give us a good idea of how many people attended and help us with any follow-up discussion that we might need to have. So please fill that out for us as well. Okay, and let's do a quick quorum, see how many board members we have here tonight. Can I have all board members please raise their hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10, so that's a quorum. Great job, thanks everybody. Okay, first item of business. How many of you have been to Liberty Park Market on Friday evenings? A couple? How many people have never heard of Liberty Park Market? A couple people, great. So Liberty Park Market is a farmers market organized by Liberty Wells Community Council. It is a community-run farmers market, which makes it pretty unique. It was started in 2017 by your neighbors. A couple of people on the community council decided that it would be a great way to bring together the community on Friday nights in the summertime. And our kickoff for the 2019 season starts on June 7th. The market starts every Friday at 4 o'clock and goes until dusk, so the end time kind of varies throughout the season. But definitely mark your calendars for June and for Friday nights throughout the year. It's a great opportunity to stop by Liberty Park after work or after, well, I guess school wouldn't be in session anymore, maybe some day camps. Stop by the park with your family and friends, get some vegetables and fresh fruit. There's also lots of food trucks available and packaged items. I personally really enjoy going with my husband as an end-of-the-week date night, and it's a great opportunity to just get out and hang out in the shade in the park. So please be sure to stop by. We are also having a season kickoff celebration for the market on Tuesday, May 28th. Because the market is community-run, we rely on local delicious food and beverages. There'll be live music, and we will have auction items from local businesses that support the farmers market. So definitely grab your tickets for that, and I hope to see you on May 28th. The other thing that I should mention in association with the market is, again, because it's community run, it's volunteer operated. The people that you see here in the room are often the folks that are here operating the market. Of course, we have the vendors come and they do the hard work of preparing the products and setting up their booths and making sure that it's a great environment for everybody. But everything from setting up signs to coordinating parking, having the info booth, running the children's programs, that is all done by volunteers, your neighbors in the community. So if you have a group of people, whether it's your family or a Boy Scout group, maybe a church group, any group that might want to come on a Friday and help us with setup, cleanup, and the general care of the market, please let us know. We would love to have you, even just for one Friday this year. That would be a huge help. There is a sign-up sheet going around for that as well, so write your name down if you're interested in helping out with the market this year. Okay. The other thing I wanted to spend a little bit of time on before we get into our agenda items is nominations for the Liberty Wells Community Council Board. You always see me here every month as the chair and the host of the meetings, but we have a board of 10 volunteers that run the market, do fundraising events, work on community issues, and meet on a lot of important items in between these monthly meetings that we have. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in getting more involved in your neighborhood. but not really sure exactly how, this is a great time to take a leadership position, join the board, and volunteer. Our nominations that are coming up in June will be for an interim 6-month term. We are in the process of adjusting our calendar year, so this election would be for a board term from June through December, and then we'd have another election in December that would be for full year terms, which will get us back on track for that. So even if you're maybe thinking, oh, I haven't served on a board before, what would that be like? This is actually a great time to get involved because it would just be for that interim 6-month term. You can kind of test it out, see how much commitment it is, and then hopefully stay on with us for another year after that. So just to kind of run through some of the opportunities that we have, we will be taking nominations for all board members who want to return for the 6-month term. So we'll take nominations for that tonight as well. But one thing that we're doing a little bit differently this year is we're adding some new positions to the board. We've always had people that have worked on these issues, but it's always been very informal. We've never really given people the leadership opportunities to really take an initiative and run with it. And what we're hoping to do with these new board positions is give people a chance to identify with something they really care about in the community, and that's their issue, to kind of take it and run with it and lead it how you want it to be. So one of the first items that we have is our block party chair. Has anyone had a block party here in Liberty Wells? What was your experience like?
Oh, it was the best. Yeah, they really helped out a lot. As far as, putting up the barricades and setting up the tables, and brought ice and beverages and games for kids, and it really helped our neighborhood to get to know each other. And now I feel so, I have just the best street, the best block, walk up and down the street and everybody's waving to each other. And
That's
Emily
awesome.
and Mike sell vegetables out of their backyard, and Alicia has a dog walking service, and
Very cool.
everybody knows each other. It's really a warm feeling.
And a block party is a great way to bring neighbors together, even if you don't know your neighbors very well. It's a permit program that the city offers where you can close off an entire block from street traffic for a set number of time. We recommend weekends because it's the easiest time to have a party. And you can invite your neighbors to come out, bring their grills into the street, provide whatever foods they want to have, and it's an opportunity for everyone to just hang out, mix and mingle, have conversations, and have the kids play together. As a community council, what we help you do with block parties is we have a form that you can fill out, and we help you with the permitting process, so it's one less thing that you have to worry about. And the city requires that you provide your own barricades to close off the street, which usually requires a rental that can get kind of expensive. So we have barricades available for the community to use. So it does require that you schedule a date in advance to make sure we don't have conflicts of interest. But if you're interested in reaching out to your neighbors and having a little neighborhood block party, let us know. This board position would be the leader of really getting the word out that this program exists. Not many people know that the city allows you to have block parties and what the parameters are there. So if you really like connecting people, if you like handling logistics, maybe you consider yourself a little bit of a party planner, this would be a great opportunity for you to get to meet other neighbors in your community and help promote the block party program. The community garden chair is another new position that we have this year. I don't know if any of you have seen the community gardens at Ron Heap's Memorial Park. It's a small park located on, it's like between 200 and 300 east on Herbert Ave. And there are 3 plots that we reserve in conjunction with Wasatch Community Gardens for Liberty Elementary, but the rest of the plots are available to the community. So if you are interested in getting a community garden plot and you're on wait lists to other areas, reach out to us because Ron Heap's Memorial Park is another opportunity for you. The community garden chair would be involved in coordinating who's gardening with which plot, the general upkeep of the area, just making sure it's weed-free, that the irrigation is working, things like that. You would be collaborating with the Salt Lake City Parks Department, so you would have resources there. It wouldn't all be on you if something goes wrong at the park. And we do have resources available to help you with that. Community planning and facilities. This is an opportunity that I'm really excited about. This This opportunity is really, it can be whatever the person in this role wants it to be. It could be anything from just tracking the building permit applications that come through and coordinating our community response to it. It can also be sitting on our active transportation boards with the city, so trying to work on things like better sidewalk infrastructure, bike path infrastructure, if that's something you're passionate about. Working with the transportation department on the 500 East reconstruction project that's happening. This could be as big or as targeted as you want it to be. So if you're really passionate about transportation issues or parks and community spaces, this is a great way to get involved and learn more about those opportunities in our community. Our safety and preparedness chair, we talked a little bit at the last meeting. This is a great opportunity for someone who is interested in public safety issues and also emergency preparedness. We have some great resources with the city that allow people to get trained in community emergency response training. So that means if there's a major earthquake, for example, first responders may not be able to get to us right away, so we have to rely on our neighbors to help us with basic emergency needs. We have scholarships available for people in the community to take that training and also to connect with other neighbors who have taken that training and make sure that we know where everyone is who's trained in the community if something like that goes wrong. The Salt Lake Police Department also offers resources to folks in the community involved in neighborhood watch programs. So if you're concerned with safety of your house or just general public safety around the community, you'd have the resources in this role to help unite neighbors around neighborhood watch groups and keeping an eye on things in the neighborhood. Liberty Park volunteer managers. This is another role that I'm really excited about because I think this can really expand beyond just our Liberty Park volunteer opportunities. As I mentioned before, our Liberty Park market is completely volunteer run, and we do rely on regular staff to be there with us throughout the season to help greet volunteers as they come in, get them oriented to what they're doing. If they've never volunteered at the market before, this is you would be the point person for this volunteer just to get their feet wet and know what they have to do. I also had a really exciting conversation with the Thane Center at Salt Lake Community College today. Are you guys familiar with the Thane Center at all? No? So the Thane Center is a service learning program at Salt Lake Community College, and basically their role is to connect SLIC students with community partners, traditionally nonprofit organizations, and give the students opportunities to volunteer in the community, to get involved in civic engagement, and to really help nonprofits build additional capacity. So using their student skills, what they're learning in class, and directly applying it to the community council. If we're able to partner with the Thane Center, which will be my goal for the rest of 2019, we would have some really great opportunities for this volunteer manager position to come up with some good service learning program opportunities for SLIC students, mentor the students, and help get them connected with civic engagement opportunities right here in our own neighborhood. So if you want to work with folks who are students at SLIC and help connect them with our community resources, that would be a really great opportunity. And then of course we have our executive officers. I'm currently serving as chair, secretary, vice chair, treasurer, and general board positions. You don't have to fill one of these roles in order to serve on our board. You can still come on our board and just help in a general capacity, and that would be hugely invaluable. I know I just gave you a mouthful. We can take nominations tonight. We'll also be taking nominations in June, and that will be the final opportunity to put your name in the hat. That's when our elections will be. Is there anyone right now who wants to throw their name in the ring for any of these positions?
I'd like to nominate Sarah Adelman for chair.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Zach. Is there anyone that would like to second that nomination?
I second.
Thank you, Janae. I would really look forward to continuing in chair for another 6 months. I got started as chair in January. I came into the position under Bill's mentorship. He served as chair for quite a long time. And there are a lot of projects that I'm excited to continue moving forward with, like the Thane Center partnership that I mentioned before. So thank you. I appreciate that.
But also mention, Sarah, that there are more thorough descriptions too.
That's
That was
great.
like overwhelmed. There's descriptions, a few of them printed out in the back. And if you're still unsure, I'm secretary currently. Some of the other board members would be glad to talk with you if you had some questions. If you're curious about what the nitty-gritty is like.
That's great, thank you for that. I would like to nominate Janae as secretary. She is amazing in this role right now. She's been doing really great things with helping improve our processes for how we record our minutes. The video, for example, is an improvement on how we record our proceedings. And she's also been an invaluable resource on some of our marketing initiatives and just how we do outreach and communications in the community. So she's an incredible asset. Do we have a second for that? Thank you.
I'm gonna nominate some new blood too.
Yes.
I'm gonna
We don't
nominate
expect only repeats here.
Caitlin, how do I say it? Lush.
Yeah.
For a general board member.
That'd be fantastic. Caitlin, how do you spell your name?
It's CAITLIN. Last name is LUTSCH.
And it's, for people that, most of you guys are pretty familiar, but some of you guys maybe that are new might seem kind of an insular group here, but literally I just sat here last May and got nominated, and I'd only been through a handful of board meetings, so, if you're just slightly curious, go ahead and follow that curiosity, I guess.
Yeah, if you've been here regularly at meetings, which I see a lot of your faces here month after month, that's all that you need in order to serve on the board. Being here is a really huge step to getting involved.
You can nominate yourself. Can you nominate yourself?
Yes, you can nominate yourself. You don't have to wait for someone else to do it. Yeah. I would also like to nominate Jeff to continue as treasurer. Jeff is new to our board. He just was approved to fill in our open treasurer position last week or 2 weeks ago. And so I would like to renominate him to continue the six-month term in June.
I second that.
That's great.
Well done, sir.
Excellent. Anything else? Have you had a chance to talk to Julie about consent?
No response yet.
Okay, we'll take care of that in June.
You can nominate me for general board to start with, though.
Okay, that'd be great. I would like to nominate Zach for the general board.
Second.
Follow.
Just for familiar, Zach's been leading up the British Field Days, and he's been really helpful on our sub-marketing committee.
I want to nominate myself as a community garden chair.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
I would like to second that nomination. Thank you.
So does that mean we need a nomination for general board too, or is that separate?
Yeah, I think that according to the Robert Rules of Orders, we should do the.
Okay, I'll nominate Karen.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's do that just in case.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome, Karen.
Any other names in the
I'm
hat?
going to put one name, Marilyn, off the board.
I would second that. Marilyn's been a huge asset in planning our first Encampment Park celebration, which takes place the Saturday before July 24th. The 24th, oh gosh. Pioneer Days, thank you. And it's a community breakfast. It's a great opportunity to come out and meet your neighbors. It's like a block party times 10. It's a great event.
Can we nominate someone that's absent?
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Wayne to continue to be on the
Yes.
board.
I would second that nomination. Anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring today? Nominations will stay open through June, so if you're not sure and you want to think about it for a while, come back at our June meeting and definitely volunteer yourself for some of these positions. We also have an online form that you can fill out. You can see all the positions there and the details in person, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions. I'd be happy to meet with you offline and talk to you more about commitment and what's involved. Any questions? Great, thanks everyone. Okay. Before we jump into our formal agenda items, I do want to establish some ground rules just for participation tonight. We have a couple of meaty subjects on the agenda, and I wanted to make sure that everyone in the room has a chance to comment on the presentations today. So we're going to give each of the presenters a little bit of time to deliver their remarks, And then we just ask that you guys as participants in the meeting pick 1 or 2 questions that you would like to lead out on if you have a question. Stick with those 2 questions. Once the presenter has had a chance to respond to your questions, open the floor back up to others to raise their hand. That'll make sure that we can hear from all viewpoints and that we can get through the presentations as effectively as possible. So first up, I don't see the fire department here tonight, but they were here last meeting, so that was great. Detective David King, welcome back. Come on in.
If you don't know me, my name is Dave King, and just some of the things I want to talk about. Looking at
There you go.
There you go. Thanks.
looking at some of the call volumes, or at least looking at the. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my notes right here. Looking at the notes as far as what's going on, or I guess our data. As far as District 5, remember this includes all of District 5, but it shows that crime is on a downward trend. There was a little bit. There was one more burglary than there was the last reporting time, but everything is still kind of the same. It shows everything is a general downward slope, which is good. But one of the things I do want to mention is here a couple of weeks ago, our ComStat unit that does the analysis, they were looking and noticed that even though it does show that there is a downwards trend, it did kind of show that increased burglaries in certain areas where people are specifically targeting bikes, garages, because it's getting summertime, so garages are being left open, tools are being left out. Watch for that kind of stuff. Today they actually sent out a hot sheet saying that they were noticing kind of a trend in some car prowls, and they had sent out a heat map. The heat map it shows the general area, like the biggest hotspot is between 8th South and 13th South, and State Street to about 3rd East. They were noticing that there was a little bit of an uptick in that specific area. Some of the things that they're finding today, and also they did this last week, just kind of for the whole city, is stuff being left out, change, important documents that people are leaving in their cars, social security numbers. Recently, I mean, we had tax season, tax information being left in the car, so information's getting out there, and so that's one thing we wanted to emphasize. Is don't be leaving stuff in the car. The good thing that I was glad to see is I didn't see that there were any firearms that were stolen. It seems like a lot of times that people do leave guns and stuff in cars. I'm a huge proponent for guns, and I like guns, but that's something I don't like is leaving my personal guns in cars, because I like to make sure I know where that is, because I don't want that out on the street. So it is something I would suggest is make sure anything that's of any kind of importance or security, make sure you have that with you. Recently, there was a KSL article on stolen cars. Did anybody see that? They recently reported that the weather took a downward trend, and we had a little bit of a cold spell, and we had 51 cars that were stolen. Out of those 51 cars, how many do you think left keys in the car?
45 feet.
Out of 51 cars, there were 22 that had keys left in the cars. It's a crime of opportunity that I understand it gets cold, and we don't want to get into a cold car to be driving around, but that's something we advocate is don't do. There is a city ordinance that says don't leave your car idling, but that right there is a huge issue with people leaving keys in the cars. So it's getting a little bit warm, so I don't see that. Hopefully it's not going to be a continual trend, but next winter it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have people leaving keys in cars, and we're going to have issues with them getting stolen.
Is it just keys left in the car, or is it actually the vehicle is running when it was stolen?
So what they do is they go out and they leave the keys. The keys are in the car. They leave it running to get it warmed up.
Okay, so the 24 cars were running,
Yep.
warming up.
Yep.
Okay.
Did they lock their doors?
I couldn't tell you. That part I did not know, but I know that out of the 51, 21 of them had their keys in the car getting warmed up. So it is a huge issue. I mean, I don't remember if I had told this group, but last winter we were driving around early in the morning, leaving little business card type things in people's windows saying your car could have been stolen for cars that we'd seen running. And there was one where there was an apartment complex that the car was right outside and the door was open. I'm sure that they could think that they could hear or see anybody coming up. I was able to park in front, walk up with my card on the door, get back in my car and drive away. They had no idea I was there. So even though that you think you're paying attention, it is something that we can easily get distracted, and we try to encourage people not to do that. Just leaving stuff in the car, cell phones, keys. It's a thing of opportunity where people leave stuff because they're going to come overnight, or they're going to leave it, go sleep, and then use it early in the morning. They come out and it's gone. Unfortunately, that's what's going on, is that people are leaving stuff and people are using it as an opportunity to take advantage of that stuff. So with it getting summertime, everybody's out walking around. Pay attention to what's going on. Know who your neighbors are. Get to know them so that you know who's in the area and who's not supposed to be in the area, and just keep an eye on people's houses. I try to advocate just simple little stuff, keeping outside windows clean. I've been on a lot of burglaries when I was on patrol, and you could take your flashlight at an angle, and as you had the beam go across, you can actually see handprints and smudges where people put their hands on it, and they try to push it, but the window is locked and they're not able to get it. But because of all the dirt that gets built up on the outside of the window, our crime lab's not able to pick up any of that. So just keeping stuff clean, keeping trees trimmed and that, so people can see, don't have any kind of like hiding spots between like a big bush and then a window that goes into the basement, because I've seen a lot of times where people have broken into that. So just pay attention, watch out what's going on in the neighborhoods. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I do.
Yeah.
So last week I was over on State Street, next to Piper Down. There's a store called Sell.
It's called what?
SELL. It's the initials of the owners.
Okay.
It's the antique store. They sell firearms too. And, I was in there looking for a gift for my dad, and I haven't been there for a couple of years. And I walked up and realized that first of all I had to be buzzed in, which to me is like, I used to live in Miami. That's a Miami thing. And now apparently our neighborhood's a Miami thing. Kind of struggled with it. And then while I was in there talking with the owner, 3 or 4 different people came in. Like, one guy was like looking through the door, and obviously they were high or something. He banged on the door really hard, and then walked off, and people milling around. And so then I asked the store owner, like, what's going on here? And she said, well, yeah, a couple years ago, we had our front door just straight up broken, our windows broken by these guys out just milling around. And we had to replace the door and then put the lock in. And then the fire marshal came and said the lock we had wasn't good enough, so we had to spend another $400 on another lock. And I was there for 15 minutes, and that's what my experience was. My request or question for you is, do we ever get those yellow-shirted ambassadors down this way on State Street, walking around by the motels, by Sell, which that's a pretty hot area for, to quote the city.
Afraid to go there.
Yeah. To quote the city, people experiencing homelessness are kind of, roaming the area there. I see the bike squad rarely. Maybe they buzz through, but I don't see them spending time there. Can we make a request to get those guys? I work downtown and I see the yellow shirts all the time. Can we get them down this end?
With the ambassadors, I could be completely wrong, but I think their mission is like the downtown areas. So I can reach out. I don't know.
I mean, it's the same issue. It's the same people.
Yeah.
They're just a mile down the road.
Yeah, I don't know who. I honestly don't know who to contact for that. I'll contact Tim Cosgrove from the mayor's office and see if he has any contacts. But
I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, it was probably about this time last year. We had some conversations with Erin Mendenhall. She actually looped us into a consultant that works with the Downtown Alliance.
Okay.
The Downtown Alliance is actually the entity that is contracting with the service that provides the yellow shirt ambassadors. Yeah. And there was a conversation. We were too late for last year's council budget ask, but there was kind of the concept put out there that maybe we could ask for funding from the city to expand the ambassador program to target things like Jordan River Parkway, Liberty Park area. The State Street had to come up, but I don't see why we couldn't include that in an ask.
Yeah.
So that would be something that we'd have to work on as a community council, probably come together, decide what areas we want to include in an ask like that. And that's something I would see the safety and preparedness chair leading out on. So if we had someone that could take on that issue and work with city council and the mayor's office, we could put that forward as a budgetary
And just to throw the last concern, that business has been there for over 25 years, and both of the owners I was talking with said if they didn't own that building, where they're renting to other people to get some income, that they would be out of business, and that just shouldn't be tolerated in our city. We should make sure that businesses can run and be profitable. So anyway, there you go.
I mean, it's that whole area. I mean, it is definitely something that's on our radar. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's still up, but I know that we've had a camera over there by the Sonic off the 13th South and State.
Yeah, we need it down.
We're out there watching
down onto
stuff.
closer to 17th.
Yeah, I know our Vice and our NARC squads are constantly zipping around through there. All the motels, like we have an East Side bike squad that they like all their officers have been assigned to specifically work with some of the motels and different stuff just to try to help alleviate some of the problems in the area. So, I mean, I've been in there and I've talked. They got some phenomenal stuff in that store. It was incredible, but
Yeah, did you go back in the safe?
probably not.
We'll talk to you about it after. It's pretty cool.
They got.
Sorry, I was gonna say, I guess another question.
Yeah. Is there another question?
Yeah, my question is about email. So one of the email addresses that you encouraged us to use to communicate with you is CIU District 5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I sent an email to that address about a month ago and I didn't get any response back. I'm just kind of wondering, is there a policy, a reason why? Because I know some CIU officers in the past would never respond to anything that was sent to that address. But Andrew Peterson, when he was there, he always responded when he'd send something there. And so I don't know, does that get checked regularly? Is there a rule against responding or what?
No, so the CIU. So when you do that CIU District 5, that will go straight to me and my sergeant. So I'd have to go back and look, and I apologize if I overlooked your email, but if I get emails, I try to respond fairly quickly with it.
Okay, but there's no rule. I mean, you generally do respond if there's a question or something. That's
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that'll come straight to me and my sergeant. And so if I didn't respond, I apologize. That's probably on me. I probably saw it and was intending to respond, and I might have got caught up and forgot. I'll have to go back and double check to make sure I didn't miss it. But yeah, anytime you send an email, I try to respond fairly quickly.
Okay.
Anybody else? So, any questions or anything, feel free to contact me. You can do it on that CIU District 5, or my phone number is 801-799-3624.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
801-799-3624.
Thank you. Thanks, Detective King. All right, next up on the agenda is Sean Teagan from Bike Collective here today. So come on up.
Great.
Thanks for your time today.
Sure. So, Sean Teagan, I live in the neighborhood here just south of Liberty Park. I've been on the board of the Bike Collective for several years. Is anybody familiar with the Bike Collective? So, the mission of the collective briefly is to help get people on an effective and sustainable form of transportation. So we're mostly focusing on bicycles, but also any kind of active transportation and linking bikes with other forms of transportation like buses and front runner and tracks and whatnot. In the past, for instance, in 2018, what we did over the year was get about 1,000 bikes out into the community in the hands of lower income folks that wouldn't have been able to afford a bike on their own. We also got just under 1,000 bikes to kids through a bicycle goodwill program. And this, and as part of that bike goodwill program, there's also a portion where kids really learn how to work on their own bicycles. One of the things that the Bicycle Collective does, both in Salt Lake and in Ogden, Provo, and St. George, is have a shop where people can work on bikes, but then have volunteers and staff kind of help them understand things in terms of things as basic as fixing tires if you blow a tire, or replacing minor parts, tuning up your brakes and shifting, so that it is a sustainable form of transportation that doesn't cost a lot, that you don't have to bring to contender bicycles and spend $400 getting something tuned up. You basically can do some of this stuff on your own with some cheap parts. And the great thing about the collective is that people can go in there, and if they don't have money to spend using the shop space, they can do a little bit of volunteering and then get some of that shop space for free. So the Bicycle Collective does all kinds of stuff in the community. And they sell bikes. Just in general to folks, the average price of a bike in 2018 was under $200. They have some pretty expensive bikes used that were donated to the Bicycle Collective for as much as $2,000. Some bikes for as low as $25 as is, but then you have to go in there and fix some things up because some of the things don't work very well. And bicycle mechanics also, in a lot of the bikes, there are the as-is bikes, but there are also bikes that as they can make it through and work on them and put them into really nice running shape, that's the ideal way of getting them out into the community. So one of the reasons why I was asked to speak with you today is about bike prom. Has anybody heard of bike prom? Bike prom, I'll give you a couple of facts. One is that it's the best day of the year. Another one is that it's somewhat disruptive. And that's what we kind of want to talk to you about today and give you a little bit of a heads up and give you the scoop. In the past, it's probably been 5 years is probably the last time we came through the Liberty Wells area. For the last number of years, the city has asked us to kind of position ourselves between Pioneer Park and Liberty Park in order, in part, to get some people at Pioneer Park and kind of using that park for more wholesome events, even though maybe a bike prom isn't totally wholesome. But to use that park in a way that you get some people out and get some people experiencing the park and having some good feelings about the area. Unfortunately, in part due to the fact that bike prom has gotten pretty big, there are a lot of people involved, and 2 years ago we have with police escort going across 600 South and I think at 5th East, and there were so many bikes coming for so long, even with some brakes to let people go through, that there was traffic backed up onto the freeway. So last year we rerouted the kind of course for bike prom, which I'll tell you a little bit more detail about in a minute. And it went over on 6th West, and it's not an ideal route either because there's a fairly parallel train track there, and it's probably, in my opinion, one of the most dangerous areas to bike in town because of that, because people get kind of stuck in the train tracks. So what bike prom is, I should have maybe told you about this at the beginning. It's prom, but there's a bike ride before prom. This year it is happening, the prom part is happening here at Tracy Aviary. It's starting this year at Fremont Park, which is in Sugar House. Fairmont Park, thank you, which is in Sugar House. The route is basically going to go around Fairmont Park, come down Simpson Avenue, which is a road that goes parallel to the S line, and then we'll take a right at 600 East and come from 600 East and Simpson to here, and then right around the park.
I prematurely handed out these maps and created some confusion, but
Oh.
that's what the map was.
Awesome.
It was to show you where these bikes might be going past
That's
the
what-
house.
I didn't realize that
Sorry.
this map was up.
Yeah.
So that's the route. I think that what we'd like to do is just give you all a heads up that we're going to have police escort this year once again, but it's going to be going down a less traveled pathway. However, that's going to create some east to west traffic issue for probably about, even though it's not that long of a distance, it's possible it's going to be about an hour, because it's not like this group of, I can't remember how many people we had last year, probably a couple thousand people. They're spread out, but spread out just enough that you can't get between them. So there's going to be some traffic, some backup, and some messing with traffic patterns for that day. This takes place the day after the opening of the farmers market, so it's June 8th. The route is going to be, this procession will take place probably between 6:30 and 7:30 or so. Plus, just to give you a heads up, it's a big park. Liberty Park is a big park, but there are going to be a lot of bikes there. And no matter how much you ask people to be totally respectful of everybody else on the road and everybody else at the park, having that many people is going to kind of inundate a lot of the other traffic and take over a lot of maybe the sidewalks, and they're going to be taking over the road in the park, and it's just, I mean, because there's a lot of people. We'll do our best. We communicate with people in advance and ask people to follow all the rules and laws when they're riding here, but like anything, like drivers, you ask a bunch of drivers to follow the law, and they're not going to do that either. I've been on the freeway. I know this. But bikes, people on bikes don't either. Particularly because it's like, woo, we're taking over the streets, we're having a good time, this is a beautiful day, everybody's on their bikes out on the streets. So we want to give you a heads up. Bike prom, it can be a really fun event. I recommend, plus this year it's going to be pretty exciting because this is the first year we're going to invite kids to participate, families, kids can come out with their families. That's going to provide create probably some additional complications in terms of traffic, but we're going to work through that. And just know that this is for a really cool organization that does a lot of stuff for people around the community and in other communities in the state, and we use the funding from Bike Prom for some of these great services that the Bicycle Collective provides. So, that's it.
Can people still register for the event if they...
Yeah, in fact, registration just opened last week, so there's plenty of room. It's going to be, like I said, it's going to be Fairmont Park to Liberty Park, and then at the aviary, I think there's going to be some activity to see birds and things during the event, but there's also going to be dancing and raffles and or opportunity drawings, I think is what you call them, and silent auction and all kinds of stuff like that. And it's going to be great. So
I'm an avid bike prommer, so I recommend it.
yeah, it's so great. So you can learn more about it and register if you'd like on at the Bicycle Collective website, which is bicyclecollective.org.
Yes.
What is the number of bicyclists you expect to be on
It's hard to say. You know, it's fluctuated a bit in the past. Last year we had it at the Gallivan. For the last 2 years, I think it was at the Gallivan. I believe last year there were 2,500 people or something. There's actually more. You know, I can't remember if that's the registrants or that's the people that rode. Some people ride just to go on the ride because there's so many people. I think that was the registrants, so there were actually quite a few more people on the bike ride than that. It's hard to say because it's at a different venue this year. Some people might be kind of turned off because it's like, what is this family event? I want to go to prom. There shouldn't be kids at prom, but other people are like, oh, this is so awesome. I want to bring my kids because this is fun, and we get out on bikes, and so it's hard to say.
Okay.
In the past, probably 5 years, it's fluctuated between probably 500 and 2,500.
Thank you.
What is your view on the disruption? Because
Yeah.
I go, and I'll speak to this. I love the disruption. I love disrupting.
Yeah.
Because I ride regularly, I commute to work, I'm constantly getting like close called by cars, and you're always out there riding alone or in a pair. And for like 1 day a year, it's just this huge reminder that there's a whole bunch of people on bikes. And this reminder is very like, blatantly, brazenly in their face, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there are a lot more of these people. It's not this one-off that I pass on when I'm commuting to work. It's thousands of us out there. And hopefully, I mean, I assume it probably alienates and aggravates a lot of people.
It does.
I hope it does, I hope it's a lesson for some people that it's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of these
We
people.
have a
and I
strong
need to account
cyclist
for them.
community, yeah.
Yeah, there's a big mix. So one of the things that I think is so cool about it is that the Salt Lake City Police Department, it is an opportunity for people on bikes and the police to really bond, because the police love it. I'm not speaking for them, but you can see it on their faces, and they're like whistling and hooting and hollering as people go by. A lot of community members love it. People are just bewildered by how many people are riding bike. Some people are just mad because they want to get to where they're going, and they may have somewhere very important to be, and this is messing with it. But I think that it's, roads are for all sorts of activity,
Are they?
and it is, under the vulnerable user of roadway laws, bikes have just the same right to be there, and actually are supposed to be given a 5 feet of space when being passed, and people on horses, and people in wheelchairs, and people walking particularly if there's no sidewalk. It is a time to just maybe disrupt things a little bit and get people thinking about there is another way to get around, or maybe I got to keep an eye out for these crazy people on these bikes on the roads, and it might also be an opportunity to get more people on bikes, which helps with all sorts of things, including traffic on certain days. If you can get a person on a bike and maybe taking the bike and in conjunction with a bus or whatever, but I think I see it as a positive thing, because a lot of people probably don't get on their bikes a lot, except in instances like this, when they can get out in a big group when they do feel safe. Because a lot of times one of the reasons why people don't bike is because, on the road at least, maybe they bike in the park, but on the road is because they feel endangered by it. Yeah.
I don't have a question, I was just gonna make a comment that if you do live on 600 East, or somebody, there's a bit of a spectacle component of it, and you might just be like, I don't feel like participating, but I might pull out a lawn chair and just watch these people make, just be silly, and there's just this, there's costumes, and there's crazy bikes, and so you might be like, I'm not gonna get on my bike, but I'll watch them go by.
It's like the marathon goes down that road, and people at Bike Prom, in my opinion, are dressed much more interestingly than people during the marathon.
Okay, do they explain to the bike riders what the pedestrians are up against, especially in the parks, when they ride through and don't give us any notice, come right up, whiz past you from like this far away? Do we educate our bicycle riders that aspect of their sport?
Yeah, I think that is like vehicles, like people in cars. I mean, you can suggest different behaviors, but you're not going to get people to follow those behaviors, even if there are officers around to.
It's okay if they're on a bike.
Oh no, I would say it's absolutely
Okay.
not. So there are people on bikes that are very strict about following all the rules and laws, and if they're going fast, they'll ride on the side track. But it is.
Good. I'll see you in the park in the morning.
I don't go in the park.
But there are.
Why you are, and these other punks that you're inciting to go ahead and ride. I'm sorry. I
actually I was made fun of just recently by my family for the fact that I called the police on a person at the park bicycling, and I was just incensed by it because it was blatantly being a jerk.
What happened?
Oh,
Did they get
know.
caught? Nothing
I'm
happened,
not
right?
sure.
Good.
But ultimately, it is some people a bike in our. The thing is, with me, 5 days a year. when I see somebody that drives a car badly, in my mind I think everyone drives a car badly, but I think that's not really the case. And that is the same thing that happens with people on bikes. If you see one bike do something bad, then all of them do something bad, and that's not the case either. But it's a and all we can do is try to be better and let people know, hey, do your best on being a good community member and not being selfish, essentially.
I mean, let's be honest. How many cars don't use their blinkers and whatnot?
I
So,
see dozens
anyway.
every day.
But the point of
is
the
like
conversation was not to make a car versus
Yeah,
cyclist thing. It was to talk about bike problems. So thank you.
Okay, good. You take a question.
Any other questions about bike prom?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thanks for the info. What time can we expect to cheer you on 600 East? Like, what time? I'm not participating, so what time will you be passing by?
So it's probably it's likely that we'll be probably between 6:30 and 7:30.
Okay.
I would say somewhere in that range. It may start a little bit earlier than that for people that
That's
kind
what
of get
time
going
we
early.
Like 600 East up in north of 21 South.
Yeah, because it's really, it's kind of a short route, but we'll be leaving the park probably around 6:30. It's also hard to kind of get people going. We go when the police are like, all right, guys, let's get going. But to try to, it's herding cats to try to get that part started. But it should be, I would say around 6:30 would be up on that side of 2100.
Thank you.
Maybe you put signs along 6 East or something like you do at the marathon, so folks live there or get their car off the street or whatever.
No, there aren't any. That seems like a great idea. There aren't any signs. That actually, the interesting part about this is that it is a narrower route than is usually taken, because 6th East is relatively narrow. I don't believe that I wish the officer was still here. They are handling all of the logistics of that, but
Well, the issue
I hadn't
is
heard about
people live on 6th East, and
Yeah,
they go by for an hour and they're stuck in their driveway, that's not good.
that's a problem. It seems like if you.
But for the marathon, they put some signs out so people can know to leave their car around the corner.
I could get you this information back I could send you an email by the next meeting. If you could send me an email to remind me, it's at my name at Gmail, and I'll make sure I get that to Sarah.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll
Okay.
email you afterwards.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're glad to share more information as we get it on Facebook and in the email about.
Yeah. In fact, by the next Oh,
No, it
Actually,
will
the
be
next
before
meeting-
our next meeting.
it will be before.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll, at that point, we'll know also how many people to expect and whatnot, so. All right, thank you guys.
Sean, can we convince you to be our community planning and facilities chair? That would be interested.
We were talking about having my daughter do it. I think it seems great, but I am pretty busy. And I was just kidding about my daughter, she's only 12. I mean, she'd be awesome.
If you do meet anyone in the community that you think would be great for that position, you let us know.
That sounds
Because we
good.
are looking for nominations.
Okay.
Great,
Thanks,
thanks for your time. All right, thanks everyone. Next up on the agenda, we have our 500 East Road Reconstruction Project with Rebecca Rolfe. Is that correct? Yes. Awesome, thanks for being here.
So my phone's not gonna be anything good on me. All right, so my name is Becca Rolfe, and I'm with the Salt Lake City Transportation Division. And many of you may know that we recently passed in the city a bond, and the purpose of that bond is to reconstruct some of our streets, since so many of them are in quite rough condition. Among them, of course, is the section of 500 East that is just a little south of us, between 17th South and 21st South. That section of 500 East is in pretty rough condition, and in the past 10 years there were a couple of other reconstruction projects that took care of 500 East a little further north. I guess actually a couple of those were just mill and overlay projects, and so this will be a more comprehensive reconstruction and is designed to last a little longer. The reconstruction of 500 East will be next year in 2020, and so we are starting in 2019 the process of going out and talking to the community, getting public input on how the road currently works for you, how you'd like to see the road work better for you, what things we might change about the road, and basically having the community discussion about what the redesign of that street will look like. It's a complete rebuild. That means that they'll be redoing the road base, they'll be redoing the paving, they will be fixing the curb and gutter, including the drainage puddles that are along the side. Yeah, I personally, myself, drive pretty regularly on 500 East as part of my own commute, including that section, and I'm glad that I have a slightly high clearance vehicle. I see the puddles along the side. I know that whenever you're walking along the street that those puddles turn into ice patches in the wintertime, and that's pretty rough too. So in addition to being here as a representative of the city, I personally see it also as a member of the community.
Is it an asphalt road they're putting in?
That has yet to be determined,
Okay.
actually, yeah. So I wanted to come and talk to the community council, the first of a couple presentations over the course of the design process. Right now, we're at a point where we just did a public input survey. We sent flyers out along the street, and then through social media, we reached out more broadly to the community. And we heard back from about 120 people. Of those, about 20% live on the street. 40% are regular commuters on the street. 5% were people who either had a business or work on the street. And then about a third of the people told us that they just use the street occasionally. It's not something that they're there on a daily basis. When we look at the where people live who gave us input, there's a definite concentration right on 500 East and in the adjacent neighborhood. So that's who we heard from as part of it. People told us that about 60% of them walk either daily or weekly on the street, so a lot of walking. More driving. 83% drive regularly on the street, about 40% bike, and then about 5% scooter or skateboard, and about 5% use wheelchairs. Partly, I think it's the senior center, St. Joseph's, that had several people that indicated that they were regular daily wheelchair users on the street. And then we had a very small number of people tell us that they either use rideshare, or sorry, a large number of people tell us that they use rideshare or taxi on a weekly or occasional basis. Nobody said they did it daily.
So that's kind of the profile of who we heard from. Then, we asked people how safe they felt on 500 East. And we also asked them a little bit about where they felt, if they felt unsafe, where that was. So people told us generally that they felt very safe driving. Safe or very safe driving was about 70%. Safe or very safe walking was about 65%. And taking transit about 55%. And then biking was definitely different. People told us that they did not feel comfortable biking. Very safe or unsafe was 60% on biking. And then neutral, another percentage, and then the very safe or safe was a definite minority when it comes to biking. I want to show you a map of where people told us that they felt unsafe, and we haven't quite crunched the data yet on exactly what people told us about each of these circumstances. So I'll send this around so you can look at it more closely, but it's a heat map. So red is the areas where there was the most concentration. So this is 17th South across the top. This is 21st South across the bottom. Little blip right there at that intersection. Some people feeling unsafe at the intersection of 50th and 21st South. And then I think this was mostly people who wanted to cross the street and felt frustrated that there weren't crosswalks. One of the things that people told us is that there used to be crosswalks at Downington, and I think that there need to be some improvements along the side of the street to the ADA ramps to get up onto the sidewalk. So I think that crosswalk at a certain point wasn't repainted. So that's something that we'll be taking a look at as part of this project, is how the crosswalks and crossings might be improved. Particularly if we have bus stops. If we have bus stops on both sides of the street. How many of you have been on the 205? Okay, good handful. So the 205 bus is one of the buses that is proposed to be upgraded as part of our frequent transit network. In addition to the city having more funding to rebuild some of the roads, we also have an emphasis on increasing our transit frequency and making transit regular. Right now, if you take the 205 into town and you want to go out to dinner, you better be back on that bus before 9 o'clock at night, because Google will tell you that your best way to take transit back to this neighborhood is to walk. So, yeah, if you get stuck at a certain point, you're either, well, okay, you can Lyft or Uber too, right? But
now you can't.
But yeah, now you can't, but there was a time when you couldn't. So as we improve transit, one of the things that we'll be looking at doing is making sure that the crossings work for being able to go back and forth to get on both sides of the bus, either when you're going into town or back out.
This unsafe heat map, that was everyone, pedestrian
And pedestrian drivers, we can separate it out.
But that was
according to
everyone.
what people, yes, so
Okay.
this is everyone together. Yeah, and that's some of the detailed analysis that we have yet to do, is to figure out how the specific dots represent specific
users.
and or suggestions for improvements. So,
I think one thing you need to look at too is, because like between 13th and 17th, where the cars park a lot, when they're going south, cars park that way, isn't enough room for the buses. I mean, the bus has to literally go over into the other lane, and so if there's cars coming in.
yeah, that's something
That's not wide enough for the bus with the car there.
That's something that we've just been talking about, and that section of 50, I can't remember if it's a chip seal or a slurry seal that will happen this summer, and we're gonna look a little bit at adjusting the lines. Not significantly changing the design, just moving up that center line over just a little bit, because I think you're right about that. We were just talking about that in the office
Car
today.
to park there, the bus doesn't have enough, the right lane is
Yes.
wide enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they go over onto the other side, so it's kind
We're on
of,
exactly the
so in
same.
that area, it's kind of,
I'm gonna send this along and then I'm gonna keep going. I have a little bit more in the presentation, so I'd like to hold questions for the end. Let's see. So, that's the safety aspect. Then we asked some open-ended questions. We asked people, what do you like about the street? What do you not like about the street? And then do you have anything else that you should that you'd like us to know about the street? And I'm gonna just tell you what the themes were, the common things that we heard from a lot of people about this.
What's wrong good park.
One thing that we heard a lot about along this street is the trees. Everyone said, well, not everyone, but a lot of people said, the trees are something that makes the street unique. The trees are something that the really well-developed street trees are really valuable to them. We heard a lot of comments about the trees. And so we're definitely going to be consulting with the urban forester as part of this project. Crosswalks and crossings, I already kind of touched on that. Quite a number of people requested bike lanes. And so one of the things we'll look at is how to add bike lanes. That does involve a trade-off where in order to add bike lanes, there's not enough width to both add bike lanes and keep parking, especially on both sides of the street. Now, just north of us, in the section between 17th South and 13th South, we've consolidated parking on one side of the street, and that allows us to have a bike lane on the other side, along with the shared lane marking. I'll take questions at the end. So if we did a design like that, the plus from the point of view of parking is that you can park 24/7. You don't have to shuffle your car back and forth based on when there's a peak hour. So there's a little bit of give and take there. We haven't made any decisions yet. We are kind of getting at the point of getting that input from the community. The Ped Bike Master Plan does recommend that we add bike lanes, but what we actually do, still to be determined. But we heard from the community quite a bit about a request for bike lanes. We also heard a request from the community to please make the road smooth and fix the gutters. And the good news is that that is the primary purpose of this project, so we are pretty confident that we're going to be able to do that. How long it lasts, but that is the purpose of the project. Then we heard about speeding and drivers and aggressive drivers. We heard some people say that they were concerned about right turn on red at the intersections. And then we heard that as a theme, and then we heard the opposing theme from the other people in the community who said that they liked that it had slow traffic, and there's not too much traffic, and the drivers go nice and slowly. And so some people in the community think that it's way too fast and really aggressive drivers, and some people think it's really chill and mellow. So, it was interesting. It's not exactly a vote, but it's interesting that the community sees it both directions. Some people requested that we make the 21st South intersection a lot more like 17th South. That is adding, I guess, colored crosswalks and making it just feel a little more pedestrian friendly. So that's something we might take a look at. Some people told us that they love the street exactly the way it is, and some people told us that they liked nothing about the street exactly the way it is. So when we listen to the community, it's really interesting. There's some things that there's common themes on. I didn't have anyone tell us that we should cut down all the trees, although we have heard that on past projects. Please cut down all the street trees. Okay? I'm probably the only one that wants that. Okay, then we looked at data from within the Transportation Division. We looked at the crash history, and it's relatively safe compared to other streets similar to this. Not very many crashes. We looked at the parking use along the street. About 4% of the spaces are used on the surveys that we've done so far. We have yet to finish that. We need to do a little bit of weekend research as well. We have traffic counts from a few years ago, and we'll be updating those, and it's about 5,000 or 6,000 vehicles a day. Might sound like a lot, but that's not too many for a street that's a collector like this one. In comparison, 21st South, which is a lot busier, has about 17,000 vehicles a day, so about 3 times as many. 600 East, about 1,000 vehicles a day. We're taking a look at the bus boardings. I have another thing I'll send you around. This is still in progress as well, but this generally shows you where people are getting on the bus. So it has the red dots. People are getting on and off the bus, mostly at 21st South, that's the biggest dot, and at 17th South, and just north of 21st South. The interesting thing is that there's 2 stops that are just north of 21st South, and then there's no stops that are similarly big on the going southbound. So where are those people who go north? How do they get back, right? Well, there's a much bigger dot for this location, so probably some people are getting on here, here, and here, and they all get off here.
Well, that's close to the S line.
It's St. Joseph's Village, that's why they're getting off there. They're being taken
dropped off someplace and they get back by bus.
Okay.
bus makes a lot of
That
sense.
would make
Yeah,
sense.
But they wouldn't get on there if they were from St. Joseph's.
Yeah.
So you think that they are being dropped off at St. Joseph's and
Yeah,
then they go back?
I ride 500 and,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I see a lot of drop-offs by St. Joseph.
Okay, all right. And then they're going back on the bus. Okay.
I do also think that there are people that like that do what you're saying, because that's
Okay.
there are other places on Fifth where that's a problem, especially like at certain commuter hours. You see the same people with you every day, like crossing the street in an awkward fashion because there's not a bus stop like on the north side or on the south side.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, all right, well, I'll send this around, you can take a look. Again, this is just barely starting, so that's where we are. And then, we're currently in the process of doing a construction survey, like sending surveyors out to, figure out exactly where everything is right now. Let's see, I think I talked about all of those already. In terms of bus service, one of the things that we will be looking at is improving bus stops. And that means adding bus shelters, making the bus stops ADA compliant, which currently very few bus stops in the city are. And we probably will be looking at consolidating the number of stops, which is partly why we're looking at the number of boardings at each location, because we want to pick the right places to keep the bus stops. Consolidating bus stops means that the buses overall can go faster, because they don't have as many places that they have to stop.
Can I ask a question about that? There's still the
Questions at the end, she's not taking questions now.
for
Okay.
We do only have about 5 minutes, so I would like to leave enough time for questions.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what I have in terms of a presentation. Now I wanted to take a really quick straw poll on a couple things. I wanted to just have you do a show of hands based on what you think about these things. And then I'll do questions. Okay, bus bulbs. That means you make the sidewalk area wider so that buses can stay in the lane instead of pulling off to the side. That can increase the transit service because the buses have an easier time getting back into traffic whenever they're done picking up passengers or letting them off. What do people think about bus bulbs?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Okay,
The buses on 500 just don't pull over.
It's okay.
Yeah, they don't pull over now,
Then
and so you're saying
assign to
keep
an
it
office?
not pulling over?
It's okay. Actually, we do have another thing.
The buses don't pull over on their feet.
Yeah. So is she saying do that or not do that?
That we would add,
It's a good point.
I haven't tried to explain this to people before, this is good.
Are you talking about forced pullouts?
It's like along the section that's next to Liberty Park, okay? If you, along Liberty Park, right here, you have a section where you have basically you have, okay, so you have your parking along here, right? And then you have a section that comes out like this, and then maybe this goes to a street,
By the church.
right? And then the bus stop is right here, right? So the bus, when it stops, stays in the lane, right? So we would do potentially this same design along this section of 500 East, where we would have parking still, but where the bus stop is, we would expand out, and that would give us space, and we haven't done this yet further north, but that would give us space to add a little bus shelter. So,
All those raising hands for in favor?
You realize you're also impacting bicyclists because you're forcing them into traffic with that
potentially,
pull out.
yes.
Yeah, the cap stuck, don't worry about it.
Yes, yes.
So all
Or
those,
bicyclists.
are there any drawbacks to the bus bulb?
Well, the downside of it in some ways is that if you're behind the bus, you can't pass the bus unless there's a good break in traffic and then you're able to use the other lane to pass. So, that's why I love it. So can I just get a feeling as to what people think of bus bulbs, or I guess maybe I'm getting that we need to do more education about what bus bulbs are.
We do.
It's the wrong question because there are a whole bunch of issues on that. Pull outs are normally for decreasing pedestrian crossing times
Okay.
on busy roads.
We'll skip this one.
Questions, I feel like there's a lot of questions.
What's that?
gonna be wheelchair,
Wheelchair
they take quite a bit
yeah,
of time.
exactly, yeah.
People aren't gonna, they're gonna get pretty mad having to sit right behind that bus
Okay.
for 5 minutes or whatever.
Okay.
Tired
This
of
is,
here and there.
this is good input, even if you didn't get the straw poll. I've heard a good earful, so thank you. Okay, parking consolidation. What do you think about the idea, just show of hands, about putting parking only on the west side of the street and making it be 24/7? People that think that's a good idea?
That's a yes.
Yes, okay.
There's no parking enforcement on that stretch of Fifth East. People park wherever they want for as long as they want because nobody's enforcing the signs.
I have a ticket there, so I know that, I see the city cars, you go by occasionally, I know.
See, it's the perception thing.
Okay, and how many people think that's a really bad idea? Okay, we have a handful in that direction too. Okay, maybe slightly more.
Just about limitations of bike lanes on the other side of the street. That would be my.
Do you want to get rid of parking on both sides?
I'd
I'd
get rid of
like that
parking,
too.
but it's uncomfortable being forced into the full lane.
That's where the
50s.
space is, right? That's where the
Also
space
causes
is. Like,
people to make illegal U-turns.
we could also ban cars on 50s, and I don't think that would be. So, I don't know, I'm just like saying the space has to come from somewhere, right?
If
So-
that data that 4% of the spots are being utilized is true, would there be much impact of just eliminating parking along the street?
Yeah,
entirely.
that's kind of the question, right? So we're gonna be taking a little further look at this. I thought I'd just ask. Okay, and we just keep going and until we can do questions. What would people think of raised crosswalks? If we put a crosswalk back in on Downington, should that be a raised crosswalk, which would then also encourage motorists to drive slower?
Not a speed bump, but like a.
It'd be like gradual. It'd be designed so that you could take it at whatever the speed limit's posted on the road, you could cruise it at that speed. So if it's like, right now it's 30. Yeah, Liberty Park, I think is, I mean, it's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and the crosswalks are raised. If you're going 20, you probably don't get launched into the air. That's the goal. So they have really long, like, ramp up to them, you know, and then back down.
How do snow plows impact that?
They just plow it.
It doesn't wreck them
No.
over time and have to replace them over
Yes,
time?
it does.
It's,
And the fire engines hate it too.
so,
How many want raised crosswalks?
what's the perspective on raised crosswalks? Is that something we should look at? Not look at?
How many don't want raised crosswalks?
I don't care.
Kind of ambivalent.
Neutral.
Alright.
Neutral.
Big no.
I just wanna put
Okay, I haven't tried this straw poll thing before, so I'm.
Can't you spend the money on something else?
Then 21st South. Should we make it more like 17th East with, or 17th South with the colored textured sidewalks, or
Yeah.
crosswalks?
Yes.
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 Okay, that has some support.
Uh,
Okay, good, good.
Can you also consider a better walk light?
Yeah, that walk light's really short.
Okay, this project probably will not do signals, but I can ask some questions about signal time. We actually don't need to change anything infrastructure-wise, we just need to reprogram the computer.
Yeah, but there fits it.
Okay, so, and then what are thoughts about speed limit? Speed limit should stay 30?
Of course.
Do I hear 60?
I'll raise you 80.
Okay.
I certainly
Okay,
would
we're-
not lower it.
Not lower, okay.
No.
So, thanks for the input. The next step in this, from our perspective, is that we will be taking a further look at some of this input that we have received, and we will be potentially coming back on your June agenda if there is interest in that.
Sure.
As we will be putting together a conceptual design kind of by the end of June, and I'd like to have a chance to talk to you after we've done a little bit more completing the analysis. Do you want to take questions? Can I do
Yes.
a
Yeah,
little
let's
bit of
do
questions?
5 minutes for
Okay.
questions, yeah.
Okay, sorry to run long. Okay, can you?
Sure.
Oh,
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like going back to some of the people that had questions maybe before George, like
Yeah.
Wayne.
Great.
Mine wasn't a question necessarily, it was more of a comment with putting bike lanes on Fifth East, because people felt so unsafe. Well, why don't they go one block east and go on a road that was specifically designed for them, instead of putting more bike lanes on Fifth East?
I know I'm jumping in, but my comment I was gonna make is related to the bike lanes as well, is that we have too much of a piecemeal approach. I believe we have a master bike plan, And it should be looking at making those connections at a holistic level, not street by street. So as like I'm like kind of thinking too, I'm like let the cars and the buses be on 500. I can go over to 400.
Or six.
Or six,
Yeah,
yeah.
six is designed for that.
Okay, well, the part depends, like, if you're going west in general, then you don't really wanna go east,
It's only a street.
right? It's a quarter mile, so it takes a little bit. So, but anyhow, we did hear a request for bike lane. Penn Bike Master Plan does recommend bike lanes on Fifth East, taking that more comprehensive approach. But that was also before we had the transit master plan that suggests significant increases to bus service. So maybe the buses trump the bikes. I don't know, we're still in the process of evaluating all of this.
Okay, in the back, we have two questions. If you want to go ahead first.
If you take a drive down Fifth East, you'll see that half of the street is already a bike lane.
So that's just the street.
We have shared lane markings currently on the street, which imply that drivers and bicycles are supposed to share.
I must have
Right.
misread the sign, I didn't see anything about sharing.
What's that?
This is from 1700 south to 2100 south, so there
That's
are
right.
bike lanes north of 1700 south.
I'm saying this southbound lane of Fifth East has been a bike lane for as long as I've lived on Fifth East, which has been 20 years. And if you bother to drive down the street, you'll see a bazillion signs saying that.
You can take the lane as a cyclist on the southbound side, but there's no dedicated lane for the bikes, and that's again north of 1700 south.
Are they replacing water and sewer on the street then when they?
Oh, that's a good question. So there's a short section of the street where there is going to be a large aqueduct coming through. But that's only for like a very short block. It kind of like comes on along a street, then it jig jogs on 50, then it goes off onto another street. And I apologize, I don't know the route of that. They will be evaluating, they haven't yet looked to see what the age of the water and sewer is and whether that will be upgraded.
Because I think they did replace it from 21st, or from 13th to 17th when they did
Yeah,
that.
so I know that they haven't looked at it yet. I asked that question when I met with the project engineers on Monday, and they said that they hadn't determined yet whether water sewer needed to be upgraded. But if it does need to be upgraded, they will upgrade it.
And it'd sure be nice if they could just bury the power line so they could leave those trees without having them
Yes.
so ugly.
Are you the person who said that, excuse me, in the survey?
No.
Someone said that in the survey. And I asked that question, and this is, for a little context, this is I think it's currently loosely budgeted as a $1.5 million project. To underground power lines for 2 city blocks, so half of that length that they're doing in another section of the city is a $4 million project. So I don't think that this is likely to be in the scope of this project, unfortunately. But if the voters want to pass another tax increase, maybe we can consider that all of the same. I'm not sure that that's a serious likelihood.
And the project hasn't gone out to bid yet.
Oh, no. That's like not even until January or February of next year. Yeah, this is like way early in the process. We're trying to do a better job of coming and talking sooner about things before, we haven't really made any decisions, so that's the point at which I'm talking to you. So if there's things I don't know, it's because we haven't decided yet.
We can take a couple more questions, and then I'll get to this.
I agree. 5th East between 9th South and 13th South should not have a center turn lane. It's the most wasteful thing ever. Put something else, a bike lane, sorry Wayne, or anything like that. But that center turn lane is ridiculous next to a park. You do it on 9th East also, and it doesn't make sense. It's a wasteful issue. I don't understand why you do that.
Because I like it, I asked them to, and they were taking care of me.
Never mind.
You gotta respect the beard.
It seems to be treated like a passing lane. A lot of buses pulling over northbound.
They pass anyway.
And cars
They
pass
ignore
that
the
center
bus.
lane. That's
In
true.
fact,
But you have the
that's a
space.
safety issue if you don't allow people to pass. I mean, I know the city actually had the bus stops removed near a crosswalk because there was a safety issue. They didn't want people going around and hitting somebody in the crosswalk that was crossing in front of a bus. Robin went through that a couple of times. Heads up.
Zach, you had a question?
Yeah, you know, mentioned if you did the little bump outs, putting the little, what's it called?
Bulb out.
Bulb out. That sounds nice. The little bulb out, the little bench and waiting area. Over the past couple of years, once or twice a year, we hear residents talk about how the old Olympic rock benches are not very conducive to sitting on and waiting for a bus. Yeah.
But wait till they put an umbrella over.
In the winter, yeah. So I'm curious if there's a plan to remove those, and that potentially citywide or just ad hoc.
Put them in a better place. He's right.
I mean, there could be a park, a memorial or something that we do with it. I mean, not waste it, but
Okay.
I know that they come in and they're like, yeah, I walk with a cane and crutches, and they sit too low, and when I sit down, I can't get back up off of it without some labor. Or, in the winter, they get icy and snow covered and all of that. So,
Okay.
and that's common feedback that we have the past few years.
Do we have any other questions before I move on to the next item? Yeah, in the back.
Just with relocating of the bus stops, another safety issue that I've noticed for years is we have all these bus stops that are 30 feet past the intersection on the traffic direction side of the intersection. So you're sitting at a stoplight, and the bus goes through the stoplight, it stops right there, and the traffic backs through 21st South, same thing at 17th South, and that causes a real safety issue too. And you got pedestrians fighting to get across and all this stuff. And those stops need to be on the other side of the intersection. They can be used at the red light too, then they can board the bus while the light's still red. And
That's a UTA policy. They like doing it on the far side.
they like to screw up traffic.
I agree.
Okay, do the minutes. So I hope to continue this conversation, and to hear more. The next step in the process is that we're going to continue to look at the input that we've received, as well as our technical analysis, and we'll be coming back to the community with kind of our proposed design, maybe a couple options within the proposed design, I'm not sure yet which, and that'll be in the next couple of weeks. And then another opportunity for input would be at maybe the next community council meeting.
Yeah, we would love to have you back. That's great. I'll reach
Great.
out after.
Okay, thank you, sorry to run long, thank you for all the
Thank
good
you.
questions.
Thank you. Yeah. Great job.
Including the tough ones.
Cool. I know on the agenda it says we only have one more item, but I actually do want to add 2 more event announcements to the very end of the agenda, if that's okay. Just because we've been keeping our friends waiting for a little bit here. So next up we have Dallin here to talk to us about the Wells mixed use development.
Hello, how's it going? I'm gonna have Allie our printer kind of jammed out, so she's printing out some renderings for a new development that we're doing right here on the kitty corner to where we're at right now, called the Wells. It's a mixed-use development. It's been a long time in the process. We've kind of gone back and forth for a while, so we're excited to finally be moving. The permits and funding have come in, and we're on the way to get started here in the next week. So you'll start seeing some equipment and stuff mobilized here in the next week over there, and wanted to more or less kind of open the floor to talk about the development and answer any questions. I know we've run long, so I don't need to sit and talk too much about it, but I'd love to answer any questions that you guys have about the development specifics and what that looks like for the Liberty Wells community. And so I guess if that's okay, if I just open the floor and answer any questions. Yeah.
Love that you named it Wells. That's dope. Thank you. It's really gonna help the name of the community. Did you guys get the variance on the property lines?
We did.
I know you applied for those.
Yeah, we did that through the planning commission. It's a little over a year.
Yeah, right. So you've got it.
Yep.
And so the designs look pretty close to what we saw last year when you guys presented.
Yeah, slight variations to accommodate a little bit more parking were added. I think we were able to add 2 more stalls there, and doing some accommodations for bicycle and also some different pedestrian friendly stuff. The development is very focused to be part of a community core for the Liberty Wells area. We felt that it was really important part of the community to have a mixed use space there and not just do more townhomes. A lot of developers just slap a lot of townhomes up, and we really felt strongly that there was to retain what that corner already had, which was a restaurant and some mixed use businesses and also apartments there, that we wanted to retain the integrity of what that corner was, and so we designed that really thoughtfully to make sure we do that, and we want it to be a community center kind of area to play off the park and use it in that. So.
Is it 2 new buildings?
It is 2.
Okay.
Yeah, it is 2 new buildings. There's a north building and a south building. The north building is pushed all the way up to the front northeast corner to kind of more pedestrian friendly. That was one of the big feedbacks the Planning Commission had looked at. It is one of the things of reducing the setbacks is make it really pedestrian friendly and having it be retail space on that front building exclusively. So they had more walking access.
So what are the, like, especially in that front, what's the number of like storefronts and like number of
so
apartments and stuff?
that's a good question. So I'll go through that a little bit. The north building has 3 tenants, 3 commercial tenants on the main floor. There's a big 1,890 square foot restaurant, and that's kind of the pinnacle corner for retail. That is designed for a restaurant. It's all glass facing, has bifold open glass, has a small 10-foot patio in the front on the 500 east side. And then next to them is going a local vintage, like a high-end vintage clothing company. They've been in business here for the last 3 or so years, and so they're taking that north section, and then on the west section is the west face is also that full glass facing, and it's going to be a company called Pops Gourmet Donuts and Coffee. And they do. They've been in business the last few years, and they've done pop-up shops with normal ice cream. Which they have kind of a shop in Trolley Square until they open their new shop on 9th South is normal. So they're instead of going in together, Pops decided to split and have their. It's kind of like all local organic ingredient donut kind of style stuff. And then they are partnering with a coffee company out of San Francisco called Timeless Coffee. So that'll be a nice little piece to add. In the morning, and then above that is 4 residential 1-bedroom apartments. So that's where that mixed use comes from, is the 1-bedroom apartments up there. The south building, the front third is commercial. So we'll have 3 retail spots on the main floor, and then the upstairs is office. So there'll be 4 tenants there as well. There was I think one of the tenants, they haven't signed yet, but they're really strong, ready to go. It was like an eyebrow waxing studio and like a facial thing, I think. So that'll be a nice little touch. And then our development firm's office is going to go on the second floor of that building. So it'll just be me and my partner and Allie over there in our development firm. So we'll retain the office. And then the back 2/3 of the building, up and down, will be 1-bedroom apartments as well, a little bit smaller. Sorry, the front building, those 1-bedroom apartments are about 980 square feet, so they're good size units. The south building, they're the 8 1-bedroom apartments, and those will be a little bit smaller, about 565 square feet on those.
No 2 bedrooms? Nothing
No
else?
2 bedrooms.
Nothing to encourage that.
Sorry. Yes?
So has consideration been given to the other businesses that are in the immediate neighborhood? With respect especially to the coffee and donut shop? You have a coffee shop right here, you have a beautiful shop on Moore, which is right across the street.
Right.
Which is completely local.
No, and we love Amore, and we love what they're doing. We feel like this is a different niche. We also, Pops came to us with a really great proposal, and they really love the neighborhood. He also lives locally in the neighborhood, and we don't feel we don't want it to be, it is competition, but we want it to be healthy competition. We want everybody to thrive off of each other, and so we can't say, well, because there's a coffee shop, there we can't add more. And so yeah, we agree there's Beans and Brews down the street and and Amora's there, but we want it to everybody to bite off each other. They're different styles, they do different things. This is very like focused on organic donut stuff, but again, I can't speak 100% to that. We try to create an environment and a place where everybody can really kind of go off of each other's businesses, and we want that to be more of a collaboration rather than everybody's competing for the same style of business.
Well, how do you figure that, though? How do you figure that there's a collaboration? To me, it's direct competition. And if you say that you're so interested in being part of a neighborhood and making it a better neighborhood and working together, this seems to be quite the opposite when you're bringing in what is literally almost the same type of setup with a coffee place where you can get donuts as opposed to some other items along with your coffee. I deeply disagree with your reasoning.
Okay, and that's okay. I disagree with that. I think it's okay to have similar types of businesses in the neighborhood. I think there's not enough coffee shops. I drink coffee every single morning, and I like going to different ones all the time, and I think it's healthy competition, and I think it's going to be okay. I think we're trying to create a development that is encouraging, that we do create more local businesses. That was my main thing, is that we cater to having local style businesses in here. We didn't want to put a big Carl's Jr. or something on the corner. We wanted to feel very localized to the community, and now I'm not going to discriminate against somebody who comes in and says, I want to do this style of of shop, and I really like the concept, and I thought they'd be a great fit. So that's.
Well, you speak well, but you have nothing to base this on. You're saying it's.
That's okay. I'm not here to argue.
I mean, he can go look up. He can look up data that like the community. I mean, I love them. I love them more. I think they will still, because people really love them. They will have patronage. It is literally a concern, but the community is getting more dense. And there is a lot of examples of successful, the more commercial you bring together, it blossoms, it helps. There's a synergistic effect to that. And there's more people, it's getting denser, and people have some preferences, other people have these preferences. Like, it's not, I understand your concern, but it is also not, it's very normal and typical in a lot of areas that become more dense.
And I do understand the concern as well, and we've tried to be as thoughtful as we can with those things, with people going in, but we do agree that it is becoming more dense, and that we want everybody to have an opportunity to choose what they want to choose, and we don't see it as necessarily. I love Amore. I love what everybody's been doing, and I love local business, and that's why we're trying to do this. We're not trying to be a hindrance to anybody's local business. We're trying to bring kind of just more business together in what we think is a great epicenter for what that area should be.
Can you tell us why it's been vacant for a year?
Yeah, I'd love to. Man, okay, so we've been.
No, don't tell us like city policies and.
Well, let me touch on one thing. So, go
Before
ahead.
we dive into that, there were some hands over here that I just wanted to touch on too, and then we'll.
I just wanted to reiterate what John A. said, which is I don't think this is going to impact more negatively. I go to more because if you look like 3 blocks down there, or whatever, 3 blocks down to 9th South, which is now being called Restaurant Row, more and more restaurants are going there, and it's synergistic. They're helping each other. They're not harming each other.
I was going to say that I like to drink beer, and I will go and drink beer at Fisher, and I will go and drink a beer at Keto's, a block away. I will go and drink a beer at Proper, a block away, and none of those being near each other prevent me from drinking beer. Any of those other establishments. As a matter of fact, all the more reason for me to get on my bike and ride to that area of town.
Because there's more up, there's more.
Apparently alienate half the crowd by existing on my bike. But I like having like a destination to go and have those sorts of things.
Well, and I think Liberty Park is supposed to be that, and I really think Liberty Park was designed to be a community center area, and there's Beans and Brews on the other corner, just a few blocks north, and we think, I think coffee is God's greatest gift, and so I'm encouraged. I want to have as many coffee shops as we can, and I think it just adds to the community. So let's go here.
So speaking of density, it's growing. We've done traffic studies, so where are all these people going to park? With the neighbors that are there, some
do you guys have underground parking going in?
No, there's no underground parking. That was, we've worked on this quite a bit. There's 15 stalls that will be provided for the development, and it meets the city's parking requirement and the code, and it isn't a lot. And we had a really long planning commission. We went through a lot of things. We met with our planner many times. We talked about this issue. It is supposed to feel, it is a higher density area. It's a higher density use, and that's what the zone called for. And we specifically had talked to our planners about following the master plan of Salt Lake City and creating a space where we do meeting the parking requirements, but it does barely meet the parking requirements. So I absolutely understand the concern, but we do want to kind of push people to use the park, to park at the park, to walk, to bike, to use other sources of transportation. So it is a legitimate concern. We live in a downtown area, and that was kind of the consensus of the entire project, is that we can use the streets for parking. They're public right of ways, or public areas to park, and we can use the parks to park, and we can travel in different means. So it is a genuine concern. I agree, but we do meet the requirements, and I think naturally as it goes, the parking will kind of meet the need. Yeah.
Do you know who the restaurant's going to be, or are you still taking proposals?
We don't know yet. We have 3 different parties that are interested, but they wanted to see stuff go up first before they commit to anything. And I've got some non-disclosures. I can't really say who those people are right now. But each of them are different, very different. So, it's a different vibe each one. So.
Along the lines of density, so a lot of people are like, okay, well, we're just putting this many parking spaces, we expect people to walk and bike, but then they will only put in 4 bike racks.
Yes.
So I mean, Fisher recently expanded out their bike racks, but I think they should have kind of started there, right?
Yeah.
I think that we have a shortage of bike parking, but everyone says bike, but then you get there and there's literally no place to put your bike. So I would say double what the city expects you to put in for bike racks.
Yeah, that's something that we can absolutely do, and I would love to do that. So I think we'll have to make sure that we just go back and say we're adding more, and I think they'll be totally fine with that. But that's great feedback, so I appreciate that. Answer that question. Sorry. So our project is really unique as far as construction goes. We're using no wood frame at all in our construction. And part of that process is I firmly believe in our development firm. I do construction. That's my background, is design and construction. I designed in these buildings, and construction process is so inefficient. It's really wasteful. It's really environmentally harmful, and so we wanted to do something that made a difference in the construction. And so we're using this new panel system. It's called EVG. And it's a concrete panel system that uses no wood frame at all, and it's recycled material panel system where it's basically like a foam block that's about 4 inches thick, and then there's metal mesh wire on either side. So you'll see this as it goes up. It's going to be pretty wild to see, because it's not going to be typical wood frame construction. So there's no use of any wood or any extra waste. It's all just that foam pre-panel. Foam block, and then it's not actually precast. So we put the foam, we build the building almost in foam with this metal mesh wire, and then we hand apply with like a shotcrete gun, and then we hand trowel it. So all the extra concrete that we use actually falls into the interior corridor, and that is what is used for the slab. So there's no waste in the construction as it goes. All the concrete that isn't used is put back in the slab. So it's a really new type of system. The city took just to get the panel approved. I did not think it was going to take this long, and so it was really frustrating. But the city took about 4.5 to 5 months alone just to approve the new panel system that we were using. That was a huge gap in time to approve that, but we genuinely think that we want to pioneer that new type of construction, because I'm very passionate that wood frame construction is a really bad. It's really poorly insulated. It's really poorly built most of the times. Our panel is a Class A sound, Class A fire, and has an R48 insulation on every single surface. So
Is
it's
it
just it's a
Enduro
better
wall?
building. What's that?
Are you using an Enduro wall?
It's not an Enduro, it's called EVG panel system, EVG 3D panel system. So there's videos and stuff online that you can look it up. But it's a really amazing system, and we think it's going to be it's an important part of the build and an important part of the development. And so there was a huge gap in time with that. We also found, I don't know if you probably didn't see when we were over there doing demo, that we found an old artesian well that somebody had capped improperly when we were doing the demo. And so that sprung water out. And we had to go in and cap it because they wouldn't let us because it wasn't on record through county. We were gonna try to reuse it and bring it back up as an artesian well, but the county, the state actually, I think is the Division of Water, they wouldn't let us do that. So we had to then go through the whole process of capping that out, and that was quite a bit of a process through the city as well. But it was ultimately the right thing to do and get it graded. The tenants that we had in there had opted to move out sooner when we had talked to them about what we were doing, the owners of the buildings and how that had played out with the tenants. And so that caused the buildings to be vacant, which was not a great scenario. And so we opted to demo the buildings and rather have a flat lot than have two vacant buildings that seemed unsafe and would cause more problems than good. So it's thankfully been just dirt flat lot, which has caused no problems. It's looked better than two crummy buildings that were abandoned. So that's where we are, but now we're finally to the point where we can move forward and the permits have been issued and all the funding is dialed up. So anyway, that's a little bit. Is there any other questions that I can answer about the project?
Is Tasty Thai thinking about coming back?
We know them really well. Suwani's awesome. They aren't. They were kind of looking for an exit at the point when we had talked to them. And they were just a little bit tired, I think. But they're awesome people, and we still have a great relationship with them. I don't think they're going to come back, though, unfortunately.
When do you start construction?
It'll start next week, this next Monday.
And how long?
$1 million question. We'd really like to be able to put our commercial tenants in to start doing TI within 6 months. So within 6 months, we'll have gray shell and everything will be really starting to get people can start moving in and get businesses and stuff going there. So that's kind of the timeline and the plan. So okay.
And just a comment, I just hope we don't make this another sugar house. I hate going to sugar huts anymore. It's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. No.
What part about it?
Just the traffic, you can't. It used to be, I would shop there all the time. Now I go down and Fifth East and go to Trader Joe's and Smith's down there.
It's like, it wasn't really the car density thing is challenging there.
Yeah, it's awful.
Well, and the zoning doesn't allow right now for it to become a sugar house. This corner was specifically zoned to be a higher density commercial corner, as these pinnacle corners are around Liberty Park. But so it's not gonna, the houses and the integrity of the neighborhood is still gonna be there. So.
And it's with the other buildings that would be coming up, so not necessarily those.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it.
I do just want to cap that off by saying thanks to Dylan for coming out and having that conversation, but also I want to recognize Cafe Amore as being a really good community partner in Liberty Wells. They have been a vendor at Liberty Park Market. They've been a longtime sponsor of Liberty Wells Community Council communications and newsletters. And tomorrow they are having a pit stop for the bicycle. If you're riding your bike past the Moore Cafe, you can stop in and get a drink and a treat between 7 and 9. 7 and 9 is that what's happening? So that being said, I look forward to continuing to partner with Amore. But I also do welcome diversity and hope that we can continue to work together as businesses and bring businesses together so that it is a synergistic location for people to stop and spend time, spend their money, and enjoy Liberty Park and the community. So thank you guys for being here to talk about that. Before we go, we do have two really quick, you're welcome. We do have two really quick event announcements that I want to put out there. Zach, if you want to come up and talk about BFD, and then we'll have Christine come talk about the cornhole tournament.
I'll be really quick. Over here on the table, there's some handouts and some flags, and this applies to everyone, even if you don't live in Liberty Wells. We have an event called British Field Day. It's been running for 28 years. This guy over here, Bill Davis, was the founder. And it's a pretty cool event. I started going to it when I was a little kid. And now I'm the chair running it under Bill's mentorship. So anyway, it's on June 15th at Liberty Park from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's an event for everybody. It's not just a Liberty Wells type thing. It's not just a British car enthusiast type thing. We have some amazing food trucks coming, the Clean Eats food truck. We have a food truck that's committed to make fish and chips because it's British Field Day. We have Raclette Machine, which is a great company that's been coming to the Liberty Park market. And we have an Irish flutist. We have a bagpipe band. We have usually about 150 cars, about 40 motorcycles. And we have a kids' garage that my wife and some of her friends are heading up, so your kids can be entertained while you go walk around or eat your food, look at cars, whatever. I really want you to come out. And if you do me a favor, I have some flyers in the back, this little flyer. If you'd grab a couple, you could do me a huge favor. And I want you to take this and either put it on your fridge or take a couple, and when you see it doesn't have to be a classic car. We accept all British cars at this show. If you see someone with a Mini or a Rover or a Jaguar, those are kind of like the newer British cars that are out there, or even something older, I want you to just take this and slip it right into their windshield wiper to let them know what's going on, because this isn't just the old dogs, this is an everybody dog event. It is a $5 donation to get in, kids are free. And then here's the bottom line, and why I'm enthusiastic about this is, yes, I have the passion for British cars. My dad had one growing up, a couple, and we have two right now. But the core is this British Field Day event has provided our Liberty Wells Community Council with a lot of funds that we do the things we do with. So we started the Liberty Park Market in part with some of the funds from British Field Day. We pay for the first encampment event with some of the funds from British Field Day, and all the other things we do are from this event. So this is helping your community by coming out, making a donation, having a good time in Liberty Park. It's fabulous. June 15th, day before Father's Day. So the dads, you can leverage the event and say, I'm going to the car show with the kids. So help me out. Let people know if you're on social media, if you'll share the event on your page. We have a great page going on with some in-kind donations to create the logos and the way it looks. Come on out, okay? Thanks, guys.
I'll go really quick. My name is Christine Grafer. I run the Liberty Park Neighbors Facebook page. And we have a really great group of neighbors on our street. We get together and play cornhole. And we thought it would be a great idea to expand that love of neighbor experience and start a Liberty Park Cornhole Classic, which we will start June 8th. It's a two-man team double elimination cornhole tournament. It's going to be on our street on Williams Avenue between 3rd and 4th East. We're blocking off the street. And all levels are welcome. We're going to have an adult team and a kids team. We're just trying to learn and see if this is something that is viable, that we can keep moving on in the future. So if you're interested, I have a website up with a sign-up sheet. If you want to start a team, you got to register and welcome any suggestions or ideas to make it better in the future. So
What's the date?
June 8th, 1 month away. So here's some flyers if anybody needs.
Thank you. That's a great example of what you can do with a block party. So if you're interested in doing something similar in your neighborhood or joining Christine's block party, come let us know. We'd be happy to help you out. Okay, any other announcements before we break for the evening? Yeah.
The senators speak?
If she can help
I
us
just
put away
introduced
chairs,
myself.
because, okay. Thanks, come on up. We do have to be up there.
Yes, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Luz Escamilla. I'm a state senator. I represent the Northwest quadrant of Salt Lake City. But I'm here visiting and now as a candidate for Salt Lake City mayor. We're doing the rounds on all the community councils and just appreciate, we just came from 2 community councils on other parts, so thank you. And it's been interesting to hear conversation on development, conversation on traffic and transportation, and of course, all the fun stuff that will be there. It's fun. Thank you. Just wanted to introduce myself.
Can I quickly say that Senator Escamilla is 10 times more effective than Jim DeBackus. You do more in 1 year than Jim has ever done in all his time in the Senate.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll take that endorsement.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, adjourned. Thanks, everyone. If you could please help us put away chairs.
Oh, I'm sorry.